We live from New Delhi, watching TT India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lepakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. India and the European Union to hold a 16th India-EU summit in New Delhi to announce mother of all trade deals as the two sides successfully concluded negotiations for the proposed free trade agreement. India-EU unveils the Security and Defence Strategic Partnership. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh says increased momentum will bring two ancient civilizations closer. EU Vice President Kaja Kallas calls it a milestone in security ties. US President Trump sends border czar from Tom Homan to Minnesota as protests continue after fatal ICE shootings. Some federal agents to leave Minneapolis after mayor speaks to Trump. Trump says tariffs will rise to 25% from 15% on South Korean imports, accuses legislators of not living up to the trade deal. And unbeaten India takes on Zimbabwe in the first match of the Super 6 stage of the ICC Under-19 World Cup. Ayush Matre's team aims to extend its winning run. Well, on to the top story. India and the European Union, together representing 2 billion people and 25% of the global GDP, are moving closer to a landmark trade agreement. As global supply chains shift, India is emerging as a reliable and trusted economic partner. Now, the India-EU summit on 27th of January could mark a turning point in global trade. Ajay Mishra reports for more.
India, the world's fastest growing major economy, and the European Union, a bloc of 27 countries together represent a market of nearly 2 billion people. As global attention turns to the India-EU summit on January 27th, expectations are rising around a proposed free trade agreement that could reshape global trade flows. Amid geopolitical uncertainty, India is increasingly seen as a reliable long-term business partner. After signing trade agreements with countries including Mauritius, UAE, Australia, EFTA nations, UK, Oman and New Zealand over the past 5 years, India is now negotiating with the European Union, its largest economic bloc partner.
भारत के लिए और यूरोपियन यूनियन के लिए एक ऐतिहासिक है एवं एक मील का पत्थर साबित होने जा रहा है। रिजिलिएंट सप्लाई चेन बनाने में हमको मदद मिलेगी, ग्रीन इनिशिएटिव्स में सपोर्ट मिलेगा और इसके अलावा जो इम्पॉर्टेंट इशू है नॉन ट्रेड इशू जैसे क्लीन टेक्नोलॉजी है, एनवायरमेंटल रेगुलेशन है, सप्लाई चेन है, इसके अंदर एक मुझे लगता है बहुत ज़्यादा मदद होने जा रही है।
Experts believe that the free trade agreement between India and the European Union will benefit all three sectors: agriculture, manufacturing and services. Indian agricultural and marine products may gain wider access to European markets, while sectors such as garments, leather, and light engineering stand to benefit. Pharmaceuticals, steel, petroleum, and chemicals are also expected to see improved market access. In 2023, India exported goods worth $76 billion to the EU and imported $61 billion. In 2024, India exported 37 billion euros worth of services to the EU, while imports stood at 29 billion euros. The European Union is still the largest trading bloc for India, and after the free trade agreement, India will start benefiting from the GSP, Generalized System of Preferences, under which no duties are levied on imports from developing countries into Europe.
पिछले कई सालों में जीएसपी के विड्रॉल होने के बाद इंडियन एक्सपोर्ट की जो कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस है थोड़ी सी कम हुई थी, वो एफटीए आने के बाद बहुत ज़्यादा ही हो जाएगी क्योंकि जीएसपी में जो कंसेशन था उससे बहुत ज़्यादा कंसेशन एफटीए में ज़ीरो ड्यूटी के कारण इंडियन एक्सपोर्ट्स को मिलेगा.
Now let's understand why the European Union is supporting a free trade agreement with India. In fact, amidst increasing global uncertainty, most countries in the world are emphasizing business relationships that are reliable in the long term. After supply chain disruptions during the COVID-19 pandemic and slowing growth across Europe, the EU is seeking to diversify trade and reduce dependence on limited suppliers. Amidst falling growth rates in Europe, the EU will find India to be its fastest-growing market. Duties on wine and spirits imported from Europe to India may be reduced. European luxury car companies will also benefit from India's large market. Aircraft, diamonds, and luxury goods will find new opportunities in India. India has maintained that national interests will not be compromised in any trade deal. Safeguards for farmers, the dairy sector, and labor-intensive industries such as textiles and leather remain priorities. India has also raised concerns over the EU's carbon border adjustment mechanism, which could impact exports of steel, aluminium, and cement. Trade talks between India and the EU have been ongoing for nearly 2 decades. Officials have indicated that agreement may be reached on most chapters during the summit. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, with the finalization of a free trade agreement, India and the EU have signaled their intent to deepen economic ties in an uncertain geo-economic order. Well, why is this FTA important and how has the relationship between India and the EU evolved over the years? Jessica Taneja has more on this.
Amid a fracturing global order, India and the EU are aligning their quests for strategic autonomy and resilience. A synergy that positions New Delhi as Europe's indispensable partner in Asia.
भारत और EU की 2 दशकों की स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप नेचुरल है, ऑर्गेनिक है। इसके मूल में ट्रस्ट है, लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों में साझा विश्वास है।
With bilateral trade soaring 90% to $136 billion in goods over the past decade, and EU's foreign direct investment stock topping $140 billion, India may have found a hedge against tariff uncertainties while bolstering Europe's de-risking from China and Russia. India's business landscape now features far more European companies than it did a few decades ago.
One of the best examples of this partnership is the new Federation of European Businesses in India. It brings together 6,000 EU companies, which have created 8 million direct and indirect jobs in this economy.
Over the years, India-EU relations have followed a historical arc from margins to the mainstream. Diplomatic ties began in 1962, but remained largely dormant. The relationship then awakened with the Lisbon Summit in 2000, which then established annual summits. The momentum led to the 2004 Strategic Partnership and the 2005 Joint Action Plan, focusing on trade, security, and energy. Major acceleration came after 2022 with the relaunch of stalled FTA negotiations. Soon, a Trade and Technology Council forum was created to align standards, boost supply chain resilience, and drive joint innovation in tech and trade. Against the backdrop of geopolitical shifts, last year India and EU scripted a new 5-pillar agenda: peace, planet, prosperity, people, and partnership, which was aimed to prioritize action on semiconductors, green hydrogen, and artificial intelligence. They say converging imperatives drive autonomy in action. The EU's CHIP Act, with 43 billion euros in funding, subsidizes semiconductor production to counter global shortages. It mirrors India's PLI programs that offer manufacturers 4 to 6% of their incremental sales growth to boost production in strategic areas. Much like India's mineral-focused trade partnerships with Australia and even the UAE, EU's Critical Raw Materials Act expedites securing supply of lithium, rare earths, and cobalt for green technologies. For India, the European Union fills a reliability gap by providing stable markets for pharmaceuticals and textiles. Europe, meanwhile, gains a non-Western anchor, validating India's multipolar vision. The EU remains one of India's largest trading partners, accounting for about 17% of India's goods exports and a significant share of services trade. Industry estimates suggest that with tariffs phased out due to the FTA, exports to the EU could double over the next 3 years.
This isn't just about economics.
It's also about India asserting strategic heft and turning autonomy from slogan to substance in a world still navigating tariff wars and alliances. Jessica Thaneja for DD India in New Delhi.
Well, India and the European Union will hold a 16th India-EU summit in New Delhi. The key highlight of the India-European Union summit to be held in New Delhi will be signing of the free trade agreement. The agreement has several dimensions, one of the most important being migration and mobility. Watch this report by correspondent Akhilesh Suman.
A new chapter in India-Europe relations began when the President of the European Council and the President of the European Commission attended India's Republic Day parade on 26th January as chief guests and are now participating in the India-EU summit with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On this occasion, they will also witness the signing of the free trade agreement, in which migration and mobility will be a key focus area.
This is a pivotal moment for our bilateral relationship with renewed political momentum and clear sense of purpose. Work has been coordinated and focused, and cooperation with Indian partners has been productive. Negotiations on the joint statement and the new strategic agenda have been driven by determination and understanding on both sides.
During Donald Trump's presidency, U.S. visa rules were tightened, scrutiny was increased, and limits were imposed on high-skilled work visas, restricting opportunities for Indian professionals. In this context, Europe is emerging as a more predictable and rules-based destination for Indian students and skilled workers, and is being seen as more secure compared to the United States. Under the Migration and Mobility Framework, a structured mechanism will be developed covering legal migration, skills-based mobility, social security, and measures to curb illegal migration and human trafficking.
Now, the purpose of this dialogue is to facilitate migration and mobility between the two entities, because first, EU needs labor. EU needs semi-skilled, skilled, high-skilled professionals, and India has good, skilled pool of human resources.
By 2024, around 9.3 lakh Indian nationals were living in the European Union, a number that has continued to grow. Indians topped the list in the resident permits issued by the EU for studies, research, and other activities. About 20.8% of all EU blue cards, around 16,268 in total, were issued to Indians. Over the past 2 decades, more than 6,000 Indian students have benefited from the Erasmus Mundus scholarship program. Sources say that after the FTA, the European Union will set quotas for students, researchers, and migrants, which will be distributed among member states. This will provide Indian aspirants with official information about opportunities across different European countries, enabling more targeted efforts for employment and education. It will also help address skill shortages within the European Union. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
And India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, along with the 3 service chiefs, met with a high-level European Union delegation led by Kaja Kallas, EU High Representatives for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy on Tuesday in New Delhi. Well, this meeting comes as India and the European Union mark a coming together to form a security and defence partnership. The signing of the partnership will formally take place during the 16th India-EU summit set to take place later today. This partnership is a significant step in strengthening bilateral cooperation in areas such as defence capabilities, counter-terrorism and cyber and maritime security.
And he was visited very special Egyptian from the occasion of 77th Republic Day. The occasion marks a moment in celebration of India's constitutional journey and the reaffirmation of our commitment to global peace and security. Secretly, the shared principles of democracy, equality, federalism, and the rule of law support India's growing partnership with the European Union. Together we seek to translate each shared value into practical cooperation for global security, sustainable growth, and inclusive prosperity. Especially the signing of the security and the defense partnership between India and the European Union is a reflection of established trust in action, and it brings us together in an increasingly complex global environment. I hope the increased momentum of India-EU partnership in economic, defense and people-to-people connect will bring the two ancient civilizations much closer.
Republic Day was quite an experience, so thank you for that as well, Your Excellency. I mean, it was so great to see, and I was so proud to see that also, our operations were part of this parade, and I think, it shows how we have been able to work together. Like you say, the signing of the Security and Defense Partnership is really a milestone, and we can build on that. There is so much more, like you said, Your Excellency, that we can work together on the multilateral fora, but also bilaterally to develop the defense cooperation further. So I really look forward to our discussions today and further cooperation in the future.
Well, India has reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to multilateralism and the international rule of law at UN Security Council meet in New York. Speaking at UNSC opening debate on Monday, India's permanent representative to the UN, Parvataneni Harish, said the country knows from experience that global challenges that conflict, climate change, terrorism cannot be solved by any state acting alone.
This debate provides a timely opportunity to reflect upon some of these challenges, identify the causative factors, and explore the means to reinvigorate peace, justice, and multilateralism. At the outset, I'd like to highlight that India upholds the rule of law as a cornerstone of its national governance, enshrined in its constitution and reinforced through the independence of its judiciary and initiatives that expand access to justice. These deep roots of rule of law in India at the national level inform and guide our commitment towards rule of law at the international level.
Well, reaffirming India's zero-tolerance stance against terrorism, Ambassador Harish said entire Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir has been, is and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India.
We have heard talk from the representative of Pakistan about the new normal. Let me reiterate again that terrorism can never be normalized as Pakistan wishes to do. It is not normal to tolerate Pakistan's continued use of terrorism as an instrument of state policy. This hallowed chamber cannot become a forum for Pakistan to legitimize terrorism. We will do whatever required to protect and ensure the safety and security of our citizens. Furthermore, Pakistan has no locus standi to comment on matters that are internal to India. The Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir has been, is, and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India.
All right, time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
The land of forests, nature's hidden jewel.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Lipakshi Kuran. And moving on, US President Donald Trump has announced raising of tariffs on South Korean imports to 25% after accusing the country of not living up to an earlier trade pact struck with Washington. Now, in a post on social media, Trump said South Korea's legislature is not living up to its deal with the United States and that he would increase the levies on South Korea from 15% across a range of products, including automobiles, lumber, pharmaceuticals, and all other reciprocal tariffs. Well, earlier, the two countries had reached a deal on trade and security issues. Under the agreement, the U.S. cut its tariffs on South Korean vehicles, car parts, pharmaceuticals and other products from 25% to 15%. That the Pact also called for South Korea to invest $350 billion in several key U.S. sectors, including semiconductors, shipbuilding and biotech. Meanwhile, South Korea said it had not been informed about the tariff hike plans in advance. Seoul's presidential office in a statement said Trade Minister Kim Jong-kwon would head to Washington for talks on the issue with U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Well, shares of South Korea's automakers clawed back early losses following Trump announcement on the tariffs. And visiting EU dignitaries, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa visited Rajghat, the memorial place of Mahatma Gandhi in New Delhi. The leaders paid tributes to Mahatma Gandhi by laying a wreath at the memorial. Well, EU leaders paid their tributes to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat. And moving on, United States President Donald Trump sent his border czar, Tom Homan, to Minnesota in a bid to ease tensions over the killing of a second person by immigration agents. Now, Trump said that border official Tom Homan will answer directly to him, a shift that suggests the administration is responding to political backlash. Most Americans oppose the aggressive immigration and custom enforcement tactics. Well, Trump also spoke to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey on the issue. Following the call with Trump, Frey said some federal agents will begin leaving Minneapolis on Tuesday. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said lots of progress is being made and that White House border czar Tom Homan would meet with Frey on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Grigory Bovino has been removed from his role as the commander-at-large for the U.S. Border Patrol. He will return to his former job in California, where he is expected to retire soon. And demonstrators assembled outside the Senator Amy Klobuchar's Minneapolis office on Monday, urging her and other Minnesota legislators to block proposals that would increase funding for U.S. immigration and custom enforcement. Their protest came as Senate Democrats said they would not provide the votes needed to pass a $64.4 billion Department of Homeland Security funding bill. They urged Republicans to remove it from a broader package that funds other government programs through September 30th. Current funding is set to expire after midnight on Friday. Senator Amy Klobuchar said Trump's deployment of federal agents to Minneapolis was completely out of control and out of balance, and that they should leave the state. The deaths of Rennie Goat and Alex Pretty in recent federal agent-involved shootings have sparked large protest in the Democratic-run city. And students at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities walked out and rallied on Monday to protest the presence of U.S. Immigration and Custom Enforcement and express concern about fear in their community. Students called for the abolition of ICE and gathered to hear speeches from fellow students on how recent enforcement activity had left many on campus afraid to leave their homes. Students organized aid for those afraid to go outside and monitored immigration enforcement activity on the campus. Well, France's lower house of parliament has passed a bill banning access to social media for children under the age of 15. The National Assembly approved the legislation during an overnight session from Monday into Tuesday, backing a measure championed by President Emmanuel Macron as a way to protect children from excessive screen time and harmful online content. Passed by 116 votes to 23, the bill follows similar measures abroad, including Australia's ban on social media for under-16s. Supporters say it will help curb cyberbullying and mental health risk, while critics warn of enforcement and age verification challenges. The ban is due to apply to new accounts from the 2026 school year, with existing non-compliant accounts to be shut down by the end of that year. Well, time now for a short break. We'll be back in a while.
Welcome to Delhi.
One of India's newest states. One of India's oldest lands.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap. India and the European Union to hold 16th India-EU summit in New Delhi to announce mother of all trade deals as the two sides successfully concluded negotiations for the proposed free trade agreement. India-EU unveils the security and defence strategic partnership. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh says increased momentum will bring two ancient civilizations closer. EU Vice President Kaja Kallas calls it a milestone in security ties. US President Trump sends border czar Tom Homan to Minnesota as protests continue after fatal ICE shooting. Some federal agents to leave Minneapolis after mayor speaks to Trump. Trump says tariffs will rise to 25% from 15% on South Korean imports, accuses legislators of not living up to trade deal. An unbeaten India takes on Zimbabwe in their first match of the Super 6 stage of the ICC Under-19 World Cup. Ayush Mahatre's team aims to extend its winning run. And some updates on the West Asia now. Israeli forces brought home the remains of Ran Gwili, the last hostage held in Gaza. The young Israeli police officer in the elite Yassam unit was on medical leave when Hamas launched its deadly 2023 attack on Israel. Nicknamed the Defender of Alumim by his family and the kibbutz of that name, Gwili was killed in combat near the community and his body taken to Gaza by Hamas terrorists. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Gwili's return an extraordinary achievement. Later, addressing a conference on anti-Semitism, Netanyahu said he fulfilled his promise of having no hostages in Gaza. The Israeli Prime Minister also praised the U.S. President Trump's effort in bringing back Israeli hostages. Also, Israeli President Isaac Herzog and his wife removed yellow hostage symbols from the president's residence on Monday, marking the return of last remaining hostage held in Gaza. Later, the president and his wife also spoke with Gwili's parents over the phone. Well, every year on January 27th, the world pauses to remember one of history's darkest chapters, the Holocaust. 6 million Jews, along with millions of others, were systematically murdered by the Nazi Germany. Today, nations remember the victims and renew a pledge: never again. Akshay Dongre brings us this report.
January 27th marks the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, commemorating the liberation of the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp in 1945. Black and white images frozen in time, barbed wire fences, emaciated survivors, abandoned suitcases bear witness to the horrors of the Holocaust. Between 1933 and 1945, Nazi Germany carried out a systematic genocide, killing 6 million Jews, along with Roma, disabled people, political prisoners, and others deemed undesirable. The Holocaust was not just a crime of war, it was a crime against humanity. Gas chambers, mass shootings, forced labor camps, all part of an industrial-scale killing machine driven by hatred and ideology. As Allied forces advanced across Europe, camps were liberated, revealing the unimaginable scale of suffering. For survivors, liberation did not end the pain. Families were destroyed, homes erased, identities lost forever. Yet many survivors chose to speak to ensure the world would never forget. Today, remembrance ceremonies are held across the globe at memorials, museums, schools, and parliaments, honoring the victims and educating future generations. The United Nations designated January 27th as Holocaust Remembrance Day to combat denial, distortion, and rising anti-Semitism. As eyewitnesses grow fewer, preserving memory becomes a collective responsibility. Holocaust Remembrance Day is not only about the past, it's a warning for the future, a reminder of where hatred can lead and why humanity must stand united against intolerance. Akshay Dongre's report for DD India.
And moving on, Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, said that the country expects about $1.4 billion in investment this year in projects under oil production sharing contracts promoted by the government, compared with some $900 million last year. Rodriguez made the remarks at state oil company's headquarters in Caracas during a meeting with oil executives, lawyers and lawmakers as officials discussed a proposed reform of Venezuela's main oil law that would formally incorporate the output sharing contracts. In the same meeting, Rodriguez pushed back against comments she attributed to U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, calling them irrelevant and offensive, and said Venezuela does not take orders from any external factor. She added that Venezuela was not afraid of respectful relations with the United States, but said they must be based on respect. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in an interview on Monday that the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump will gradually lift sanctions against the Venezuelan government, and that when Washington decides the time is right, there will be free and fair elections in the country. Rodriguez spoke to oil executives, lawyers and lawmakers at state companies PDVSA's Caracas headquarters during the discussion of a proposed reform of the country's main oil law, which would incorporate the output sharing contracts.
The U.S. Treasury Secretary has made some irrelevant and offensive statements, and I must respond. The people of Venezuela do not take orders from any external factor. The people of Venezuela have a government, and this government obeys the people. We have no other external factor to obey. And the personal threats I receive, I want you to know that I was already aware of them when I was sworn in as acting president.
Y su instituciones.
Well, Indian High Commissioner to Fiji, Suneet Mehta, chaired the second project steering committee meeting to review the Tubalevu village groundwater supply project, a quick impact project supported by the Government of India aimed at improving local water infrastructure. Now, representatives from the Fiji government, Fiji Ministry of Foreign Affairs and External Trade and Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Public Work attended the meeting. Work on the ground has already commenced, which will provide water supply to the residents of Tubalevu, further strengthening India and Fiji relationship. And Indian embassies and high commissions across the world. Let's go over to Hyderabad House in New Delhi right now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and EU leaders are about to hold the India-EU summit. We're getting you visuals from the Hyderabad House, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the EU leaders are about to hold the India-EU summit. And after nearly 2 decades of negotiations, officials from both sides are set to formally announce the conclusion of talks on a comprehensive free trade agreement. And there, the historic handshake between the EU leaders and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We're getting you live from Hyderabad House, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the EU leaders are about to hold the India-EU summit, and you can see the historic handshake out there up on your screens. The leaders all smiles during the historic handshake. We were getting you visuals from the Hyderabad House, where the Indo-EU summit is about to happen. And moving on, as a special gesture to celebrate India's 77th Republic Day, Panama's prominent Mercantile Bank building is illuminated with colors of India's national flag. It's a tribute by Panamanians to 15,000-strong Indian diaspora in Panama. And as part of India's 77th Republic Day celebrations abroad, the Indian High Commission in London hosted a formal reception at the historic Guildhall. The event opened with the national anthems of both the nations. High Commissioner Vikram Doraiswamy addressed the gathering on India's democratic progress and strengthening of international ties, with guests also viewing highlights of the Republic Day parade held in India. And India's 77th Republic Day was marked in Canada as the Indian community gathered at the Consulate General of India in Toronto for a flag unfurling ceremony and cultural celebrations. DD India correspondent Paul Singh brings us this report from there.
India's 77th Republic Day was celebrated by the Indian diaspora in Canada. All the community gathered here at the Consul General of India celebrated the Republic Day, talked about India development and more. Let's talk with some community member and know more about it. India's 77th Republic Day was commemorated at the Consul General of India in Toronto, where the national flag unfurling ceremony took place in the presence of members of the Indian community, officials and invited guests. The ceremony reflected the strong emotional and cultural connection that overseas Indians continue to share with their homeland. Patriotic visuals and national pride marked the celebration as the tricolour was unfurled at the consulate premises. Officials from the consulate highlighted the importance of Republic Day as a reminder of India's constitutional value, unity and democratic strength, especially for the Indians living abroad.
This is the 77th Republic Day of India, and this is a great day for us to celebrate. And I'm so particularly excited that, despite the bad weather in the entire GTA and Ontario, so many numbers have turned up today. And that shows their passion, their zeal for the country. And we are proud to organize every year this event for them.
Members of the Indian community from across the Greater Toronto Area participated in the event, describing Republic Day as a moment of pride and reflection, even while living thousands of kilometers away from India. Many attendees said such events help younger generation stay connected to India's history, culture, and democratic ideals, reinforcing a shared sense of national identity.
Allowed to come here every year for Republic Day and Independence Day. As we are Indians, we have to celebrate our culture, and we can see so many performances over here.
There is really a lot of expectation from the Indo-Canadian relationship. It's been one of the long-standing relationships the two countries have had. And now I think it's clearly taking an economic turn, which I think is very good. India is the fastest growing economy in the world today, and there are lots of things that the two countries can mutually benefit from each other.
India-Canada relations, we are so happy that it's growing well, and there are more, space of doing that, but still we hope for the best, that it's going in a good direction.
We've been waiting for this day for a very long time, and today is the 26th Jan occasion. So all of us are so excited. We actually started because of the weather. We started very early in the morning so that we actually don't miss the timing. And we are here, and we are very happy to be here. And given the kind of energy there is in these premises, I mean, it's more than worth all our time and effort. We are really, really happy. And there were other friends also who wanted to come, but because of the weather, some of them could not, but a lot of us did.
Thank you so much for making me part of the 77th Republic Day celebrations here in Toronto, Canada. I am very happy to see a lot of people turned up today, and the patriotism and Bharat Mata ki Jai in Canada.
संदेशे आते हैं, हमें तड़पाते हैं, जो चिट्ठी आती है वो पूछे जाती है कि घर कब आओगे, कि घर कब आओगे, लिखो कब आओगे, कि तुम बिन ये घर सूना सूना है.
We are representing the Dawoodi Bohras of Canada here, and we are all the Bohras are mostly from India, and we are coming here on 26 January to remember our roots from where we come and to celebrate the Republic Day with our community and all our fellow brothers and sisters.
The celebration in Toronto echoes similar Republic Day events held by India's mission across the world, underlining the global presence of the Indian diaspora and its continued engagement with India. From Canada, this is Paul Singh.
Bharat Mata ki Jai!
Well, in South Africa, Republic Day was celebrated with pride and patriotic spirit as members of the Indian diaspora, diplomats and distinguished guests gathered to honor the values enshrined in the Indian Constitution: justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. Let's take a look.
From New Delhi to Johannesburg, the tricolour rises high, a symbol of India's journey and pride, fluttering thousands of kilometers away as India's 77th Republic Day is marked here in South Africa. Republic Day marks the day India's constitution came into effect on 26th of January 1950, formally establishing the nation as a sovereign democratic republic.
On that day, our constitution was fully enforced. Bharat, the birthplace of democracy, was unshackled from the dominion system, and our democratic republic came into existence.
में हम सब मिलकर अपने वतन से ये वादा करते हैं कि हमारा दिल और हमारी जान सब कुछ इस देश के लिए है. दिल दिया है, जान भी देंगे, ऐ वतन तेरे लिए.
In South Africa, the occasion was observed at an event hosted by the High Commission of India, attended by members of the Indian diaspora, diplomats and invited guests.
On behalf of all South Africans and the diaspora of Indians across the world, we'd like to wish all the Indians a happy 77th Republic Day.
Republic Day is observed annually as a reminder of the principles enshrined in the Indian Constitution: justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, values that continue to guide the world's largest democracy.
This is an excellent occasion to celebrate our country. We see the contribution being made by the Indian community abroad. We think and the country expects, and I'm sure that you will participate in the development of India and Viksit Bharat 2047, that is Develop India by 2047. A happy Republic Day.
I congratulate everyone on behalf of Armed Forces of India on 77th Republic Day. Let's all work together for a prosperous and Viksit Bharat. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
On commemoration of 150th anniversary of Vande Mataram song, we are going to present Vande Mataram song by the High Commission officials. So Sufalam, Malayaj Sheetalam, Shashya Shamalam, Mataram, Vande.
On the behalf of High Commission of India, we extend all Indian community in South Africa for a 77th Republic Day of India. We are proud to celebrate this moment here, and thank you very much. Jai Hind.
As India marks its 77th Republic Day, celebrations beyond its borders reflect the nation's global footprint and the continued resonance of its democratic ideals. For DD India, I'm Nazneen, celebrating democracy and Desi pride in Pretoria, South Africa.
And some business updates now. Gold prices hit fresh record highs on Monday as investors sought safe havens amid geopolitical tensions, U.S. tariff threats and fears of another potential government shutdown. The gold briefly climbed above $5,100 an ounce before easing back, while Wall Street stocks edged higher ahead of earnings from major technology companies. Gold was last trading near $5,037 an ounce compared with around $2,000 2 years ago, with silver also at record levels. While you're watching DD India News Hour, time now for some sports news. India will face Zimbabwe in the opening match of the Super 6 stage of the ICC Under-19 World Cup on Tuesday. The match will be played at the Queen Sports Club in Bulawayo. India head into the contest in strong form after finishing the group stage unbeaten with 3 wins from 3 matches under the leadership of Ayush Mhatre. Abhigyan Kundu has been India's top scorer so far with 122 runs, while Vaibhav Suryavanshi has also impressed, scoring 114 runs with the ball. Helal Patel has led the attack with 9 wickets in 3 matches, supported by R.S. Ambrish, who has picked up 5 wickets. Now, India, the most successful team in Under-19 World Cup history, having won the title 5 times, and will be confident of extending their dominance. Zimbabwe, meanwhile, come into the Super 6 stage after suffering 2 defeats in the group phase and will be searching for their first win of the tournament. And top seed Arana Sabalenka has reached the Australian Open 2026 semi-finals after a commanding win over 18-year-old Iva Chovic. The world number 1 defeated Chovic 6-3, 6-1 in a one-sided quarter-final at sweltering Melbourne Park on Tuesday. And now let's take you to Hyderabad House again. In New Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the visiting EU delegation are holding the 16th European Union-India Summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the visiting EU delegation are meeting ahead of the 16th European Union-India Summit. Well, after nearly 2 decades of negotiations, officials from both the sides are set to formally announce the conclusion of talks on a comprehensive free trade agreement. Today, a pact that could unlock new markets and also reshape trade flows across the continents. The deal, which is being described by the leaders as mother of all trade agreements, aims to eliminate or significantly cut tariffs on a wide range of goods and services, boosting opportunities for exporters and investors on both the sides. And earlier, all the leaders had the historic handshake, showing the confidence for the mother of all trade agreements. In fact, India, the world's fastest growing major economy, and the European Union, which is a bloc of 27 countries, together represent a market of nearly 2 billion people. And as global attention turns to the India-EU summit today, expectations are rising around a proposed free trade agreement that could reshape the global trade flows. In fact, amid the geopolitical uncertainty, India is increasingly being seen as a reliable long-term business partner. And after signing the trade agreements with countries including Mauritius, UAE, Australia, EFTA nations, UK, Oman and New Zealand over the past 5 years, India is now negotiating with the European Union, its largest economic bloc partner. In fact, it is thoroughly believed by the experts that the free trade agreement between India and the European Union will benefit all 3 sectors, those agriculture, manufacturing and services. Also, the European Union is still the largest trading bloc for India, and after the free trade agreement, India will start benefiting from the GSP as well, under which no duties are levied on the imports from other countries. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Newshour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. Lipakshi Kurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Newshour.